Hello, Mixtresses and Mixters. This is Mixtress Ray. You're watching Mixtress video. So, I'm gonna do, you've already seen likely how I feel about this tarot deck weeks or months later. So we're flashing back to the, let's see, what is today? The 9th of January. So we're in the second week of January 2024 as I record this sort of first impressions. I say sort of first impressions because I was having my first impressions when I realized, oh yeah, I should probably record some of these thoughts. So this might be, as of this recording, this could be like the only tarot deck I acquire in 2024. Who knows? No, it's not. No, it's not. I already know it's not because a friend is giving me a deck that is already on its way to me right now. So let me just light this little candle and go for it. It might be kind of weird to flash back to the second week of January by the time I post this because for me, the first 2 weeks of January, I mean the first 9 days of January have been a little difficult. I've been sick. Yeah, I guess I won't go into the other shit because at some point I will have already gone into it by the time you see this. And you might just be here for a fucking review of a tarot deck, so I'll just leave my personal shit out of this one. How about that? Okay, so this baby is not in order because I just got it in the mail like, I don't know, half an hour ago, and I've been playing with it. So it is not in order because I've been shuffling it because here's like my very, very first impressions of this, like before I even take it out of the box, which, I mean, you guys have already seen it out of the box anyway, so I don't know why I'm being weird. I'll just go ahead and open it. Like first impressions of like the presentation of the whole thing. I love a tuck box. Ain't no problem with that. It was one of those like really kind of tight ones that you sort of, I had to pry it open with like some scissors. And it's pretty tight with the guidebook in here. So I probably will either, I don't know. That might break in though. So, I like how the guidebook sort of says, "Dear reader, this little white booklet is intended for the very beginners. For you, dear experienced reader, I have nothing but gratitude for having chosen to acquire this little deck of mine, and I am proud that it now makes part of your collection and possibly your reading repertoire. I hope you enjoy it dearly." So essentially he's saying like, hey, you're maybe not going to get anything out of this if you're already an experienced reader, which I appreciate, you know. He's letting you know, Mr. Friborg is letting you know that, hey, this is a nice little beginner booklet and you may not need it if you're an experienced reader. And can I just say, I don't know, is it because I'm getting older? But this font is tiny. It is tiny. I don't know if you can tell on the video. Depending on how big your screen is, obviously it will be different. But in person, it's like maybe 8-point font. I don't know. I'm not a font expert. I'm not a font size expert, but yeah, it's tiny. Here are the card backs. It's sort of a linen-y. It's a little linen-y, but it feels like it's just kind of matte. And you can't necessarily see the linen-y unless it's like in a certain light. The cards are a little thicker than I personally would like, but it's not terrible. I can riffle and bridge. And I get the impression, I guess I will have already confirmed or denied, I will be able to tell you for sure. At the beginning of this video, I probably already told you if it kind of breaks in. Okay, so here's the weird, okay, I'm just going to flip through it while I'm saying this. here's the weird, like, first impressions that I'm getting as I'm shuffling it. I don't want to set it on fire. Probably shouldn't set it on fire. I just got it. Okay, here, we'll do it like this. So, weird first impressions, like, as I'm shuffling it, are... Okay, so I don't always, like... Sometimes I will find myself just, like, without even thinking about it, gendering a deck. Like, I'll just say, she, blah, blah, blah. And almost every time it's a she. There's only one... Well, there's a couple other decks that I can think of that I have characterized as he's. And I don't always think about it, like I said. So, like, not all of my decks feel gendered. You know, like, it's an object. It doesn't need to be gendered. But sometimes it'll just come out of my mouth, and I will usually honor that. And as I was flipping through it and shuffling it, I got the very distinct impression, and of course, I will already have confirmed or denied if this is an impression that sticks around in the earlier part of this video. But I got the very distinct impression that this was a he. That Mr. Friborg's Tarocchi is a he and is a submissive he. And I say submissive because I felt sort of compelled to... I mean, part of it's the cardstock. It feels like it needs to be broken in. So I was kind of like shuffling it a little bit more harshly, forcefully than I normally would. And I just got this feeling that the deck was enjoying it. Like, yes, slap me, daddy. Which is the weirdest thing to come out of my mouth, but it is sort of the voice that I was getting from the deck. Like, it was enjoying me being rough with it. He was enjoying me being rough with him. Yeah, that sounds right. So that's interesting. I wanted to note that here in case that impression sticks around. I will say, just first impressions as far as like looking at the imagery, I really enjoy, like, this isn't my type of imagery in general, like, you know, this sort of like more historic looking vibe. I'm usually, you know, much more trashy in my art. In the art that I like, it's usually not classy by any means. But this is classy looking. And but aesthetically, it is working for me, oddly, even though it's not the type of thing that would normally work for me. I'm not loving the, like, super stark white borders on these. And the corners seem a little tiny to me. So I guess it remains to be seen for me personally, but you already saw if I ended up trimming or corner rounding these cards. So the thing that I've always had a problem with Marseille style decks is I don't like the majors or the court cards typically, because they're just too, I don't like the style of dress, whatever it is. I don't know if it's like medieval dressing or just like, yeah, I don't typically like it. And all the primary colors that are usually in Marseille style decks, I like that the color scheme in this deck is much more, it's kind of more pastel leaning most of the time, with little pops of like bright yellows and stuff. I mean, this is looking a little brighter on camera than it actually is in person. This is more of a pale yellow in person. But, so the colors are working for me. the little nods and the symbolism are also really working for me. Like, for example, in the wands, bastones, sure I'm not saying that right, these same wands kind of repeat throughout, you know? Like there's distinctly different types of wands, and they're all standing together side by side in the 9. They're a unified front. And you can see the progression when you flip through the wands of like, maybe I'll do it in order whenever I show you the deck in the first part of the video, so maybe you already saw this. But like, you can kind of see the struggle in the 5 of Wands versus the fact that they're all a unified front at this point. I don't know, there's just like, I'm getting immediate, just by flipping through the deck, I'm getting immediate, like, just being able to look at the symbolism and get an idea of how it relates to what I know about the cards, you know? And I mean, that may sound like very basic, but that doesn't happen to me that often. Like, most of the time, my brain is very fucking simple. I look at a card and I go, ooh, pretty, or ooh, not pretty. And that's about as far as it goes. I have to really question my relationship to, I have to question the emotions that I'm having surrounding, like, my reactions to imagery. I have to question it. I have to go deeper on purpose. And something that is really happening for me as I go through the process of like culling and not acquiring as many decks, when I do get one, I have the time to really take it in. You know, when this showed up on my porch, it's the first tarot deck that has showed up on my porch, showed up in my life, period, since October. I'm thinking to see, is that right? So October to January, this is the first tarot. I have gotten a couple of oracles since then, but this is the first tarot. And I'm able to kind of look at, okay, so here's that 5 of Wands. To me, I'm looking at distinct personalities that have things in common, and they're trying to be the same when they're not the same. They're all tied together because they're in the same boat and they have similarities, but they're not embracing their individuality, which is clear that you can see that they're individuals. I don't know, I'm just like, I'm getting immediate, like, oh yeah, okay, that's a great way to see the 5 of Wands. Okay, I get it. And so far, like, I really am enjoying even the majors and the pip, or the court cards, which I normally don't. And this is my, I think, only deck that is not in English. Which, I mean, not that it matters, I don't need it to be in English, but it's just interesting. I just feel like just from flipping through it and looking at the imagery and kind of pulling out the symbolism, just by looking at the imagery, I'm getting something from tarot that I haven't gotten before. That's my first impression, is that there's something different about, I don't know why I'm doing a full flip through, because it's like, it's not in order. But, oh well, I'm doing it. So yeah, that's, my first impressions are Mr. Friborg is a he. Imagine that. I thought that was a profound revelation, but then I come upstairs and start filming and it's like, oh, well, yeah, of course it's a he, Mr. Friborg. Of course. So my profound thoughts are, this deck is a he, and he's submitting to me, which is the right way to come at me. If you're gonna be a tarot deck that identifies as he, in my hands, you better be submissive. He knew how to play it. He knew how to play it. Props to him for that. Gita pointed out to me before I even got this deck that she didn't really like this card because he has two butts. And I agree. I agree. Why do you have a human butt and a lion butt? Come on. So, okay. Should I have like predictions as to how I'm gonna work with this deck? Well, so far I feel like it's telling me something about tarot. It's telling me something new. I think it has a different perspective to bring me. And it obviously, I'm not necessarily getting the vibe that this deck with everyone would be submissive, but it knows that it needs to be with me. So it's a little bit empathetic. It knows how it needs to approach me. He knows, I keep saying it. He knows how he needs to approach me. And he's doing a great job so far. And I'm into it, I think. This is a very like, I don't know, classical style of tarot that is not normally my thing. It feels fancy a little bit. Feels a little bit fancy. And my problem with things that feel fancy, like most of the time, is that I feel like things that are fancy judge me. But that is not the vibe that I'm getting from this. This is a fancy thing that does not judge me at all, that loves me exactly as I am. Have we seen the Four of Cups yet? I was particularly interested in the Four of Cups when I first saw it. Oh, we already passed it. Okay, let me find it. Talk amongst yourselves. The cards have a kind of a pleasant smell, I will say. I mean, it's kind of a chemical-y, you know, but not in a bad way. Of course, that's just, you know, when I first take it out of the box, it's going to smell like incense in like, you know, 2 weeks. Oh my god, did I go past it? Usually I can get to cards really quickly. Okay, there's the 3, but I wanted to see the 4. Where's the 4 of Cups? Did it get left in the box? No? Okay, I definitely just went past it then. Definitely just went the fuck past it. Where are you, 4 of Cups? Hello? Okay, maybe it's in these cards. I'm doing a great job, guys. Just like, don't even worry about it. Oh my god. Maybe it's in these cards. Okay, did I drop it on the floor in the other room? There it is. Okay. Fucking hell. Okay. So, I really liked the progression of the 3 to the 4 of Cups, because you see here we have all of this beautiful abundance and harmony between these 3 cups. And then the way that I normally see the 4 of Cups is like, it's just another thing. You don't need that other thing. And obviously there are contexts in which you do need the other thing. But this kind of speaks to me of the way that I see 3 of Cups, because it's these 3 cups again. Not exactly the same cups, but you know, it's these 3 cups again, spiritually. And then you've got another one being offered. And it's like, no, you already have this beautiful abundance. It's beautiful, beautiful abundance. And this looks fancy, but you take that and it's not going to be what you think it is. I don't know. That's the vibe that again, that's an example of like, that makes perfect sense to me as the symbolism of that card. And it's right there in the imagery. Like, accessible imagery is, I think it's hard to come by. I mean, yeah, we have a lot of decks that are RWS based, and that's very accessible imagery. But just because you're copying someone else's symbolic language doesn't always make it accessible, you know? You can ruin the RWS imagery. A thing that I'm personally dealing with right now with my tarot decks is like, how do they read? And I'm finding that many of them don't actually read that well. Like when you actually set the cards down next to each other, perfect timing because there were 3 left, and you're doing a reading, like how do the actual images of the cards speak to each other? With a Marseille, it can be difficult to answer that question because of the nature of what Marseille is. Okay, what do we have here? Knight of Cups, 8 of Pentacles, and 2 of Cups. That's interesting. Anyway, I'm getting like lost in, so my personal struggle that I have is that whenever I pull cards, I immediately go to, what are these cards? What do they normally mean? And then synthesize the reading that way. And not that there's anything wrong with doing it like that, but I would like to also, like, if I'm gonna justify to myself, which is the only person I have to justify it to, if I'm gonna justify to myself why I have multiple tarot decks, then there has to be a reason for the multiple tarot decks. And if all I'm doing is calling upon my knowledge of Knight of Cups, 8 of Pentacles, and 2 of Cups, instead of actually like letting the deck that I'm currently using bring something unique to the table. And if the deck that I'm currently using does not bring something unique to the table with readings, then why am I keeping them? As just a current question I'm asking myself on January 9th, 2024. But I think with this deck, it is bringing something interesting to the table, symbolism-wise. That's what my instinct is to say. However, looking at these 3 particular cards, I'm not getting a lot. But that's not weird for me to not get a lot from symbolism. Like, I get that this is an 8 of Pentacles. You know, we have all this beautiful growth here with these flowers. And there's 4 sets of these coins, or they might be flip sides of the same coin, but you know, it might just be 2 different sets of coins perhaps. But yeah, I don't know. Besides the growth of the flowers kind of making sense as growth with the 8 of Pentacles. I think it's interesting that the Knight of Cups is sort of pointing to his cup. Check out my cup, guys. Check it out. I have much to offer. There you go. I guess that makes sense. A Knight of Cups would be telling you he has much to offer, right? I have much to offer. I take work, and I might be a soulmate. But again, me saying that is calling upon my pre-existing knowledge of tarot. Does that make sense? It's like, I might even have a video about this that's been out for months by the time you see this, just talking about this concept. But like, ultimately, the argument that the way that I read is mostly going to be calling upon my knowledge of tarot instead of specifically looking at the imagery. And if that's the way I read, then there's really not an excuse for having multiple tarot decks. I mean, the excuse is just that I want them and that I enjoy the imagery. But I'm finding that, like, you know, I can look at one card at a time with particular tarot decks, and I can see, oh yeah, that makes sense, that is a 9 of Cups. All the cups lined up on a shelf. These are my different cups. This is my cup collection. I can see card by card how it makes sense, but for me, what I'm having a problem with, maybe this just means I'm still much more of a beginner than I thought I was. I'm having a problem with how do the cards relate to each other. And I can do it conceptually based, again, on my knowledge of Queen of Wands, Page of Cups, and Il Papa. Il Papa. I can figure out based on my pre-existing knowledge, but what if I were just actually putting that in the background? What if I were taking my pre-existing knowledge of the symbolism of cards, and it's there, but it's just part. I mean, other people may just naturally read this way, where they actually look at, I mean, I've heard people talk about directionality, like where someone's looking, where their gaze is. I'm just asking myself a little bit more complicated questions about the actual imagery of the decks that I have. And how do they read? And one thing that is not very informative about a flip through when you're trying to decide if you want to acquire a tarot or oracle deck is, you know, you're just seeing, in that case, one card at a time, like I just fucking did. And it's easy to go, ooh, pretty. I think most of those cards were pretty. I might want this deck. But you're not actually seeing how the cards read. You're not actually going, okay, well, here's a reading. Should I quit my job? 8 of Cups, 2 of Pentacles, Page of Wands. You're not actually seeing that and seeing if the cards give you information that is different from other tarot decks, because why would you want it if it's not giving you a different flavor? So yeah, that's my current dilemma that might lead me to culling more decks. I don't know. Because today is like a rainy day that I have off from work. So one of the things I might be doing is pulling out some of my decks and putting cards next to each other and doing like little sample readings to see, am I just calling upon my pre-existing tarot knowledge right now, or is there an actual visual relationship, visual language that this deck is giving me that no other deck I have will? And it's not just the aesthetic, it's how the symbolism works in a reading, how the aesthetic works in a reading, not just is it pretty or not. I need to go a bit deeper for myself right now. So anyway, I got kind of off track as far as like my actual first impressions of this particular tarot deck, but so far I think it's, I mean, obviously I've had it in my house less than an hour, so I don't know, but I think that it might be a keeper. So I guess we'll You already know because you saw the first part of this video. Was it a keeper? Or am I getting rid of it? I think this is possibly what I was thinking when I bought it anyway, was this is Marseille's last chance. Not that I've had that many. I think the only other Marseille deck I ever had was Trionfi della Luna, and I just couldn't do it. I do not enjoy the Patrick Valenza vibes. And I, you know, have some dear friends that do, so that's absolutely, you know, it's just not for me. Those vibes are also male, but they're not submissive, so I just can't. Okay, so, okay, bye. Hello, Mixtresses and Mixters. This is Mixtress Ray. You're watching Mixtress video. So I've been back and forth on how I'm gonna present this. So I don't know if this is the beginning of the video or the end. But this is my final review opinions on the Mr. Friborg Tarocchi. I'm recording this in March of 2024. So when I put this video out is when you'll see this section of the video. But I recorded like sort of an unboxing / first impressions of this tarot when I first got it, which was about 3 months ago, because I got it somewhere around Christmas time. It was definitely December. So let's get into it. So this is, yeah. I thought it might be fun to post the final thoughts before the initial thoughts, but I'm gonna decide after I film this. So that's why I don't know which part you're gonna see first. So apologies that I don't know the fucking timeline of my own video. Cool, that's fine. It's totally fine. Anyway, spoiler alert, I guess. This deck is getting put in the mail today and leaving my house. Probably forever. I don't want to say, like, you know, anything against it, because it's pretty. It's good. But here's the thing with me. Oh God, this thing is hard to get into the box too with the guidebook, but I'll have to do that anyway. I probably already did a flip through of it too, but I'll do one again because this is just sort of a final look right now. Let me get a little bit more light in this room. It's a beautiful Marseille style tarot deck. The colors, I really like Venusian, you know. I like that all of the figures have skeletons for faces, that's what I was gonna say, have skull faces. I like that. Really the only style of Marseille I would ever be interested in is Marseille with a twist, you know, and this is definitely a Marseille with a twist. But I had a brief love affair with it, which I'm sure you can see in my first impressions. Like, I was very starry-eyed, you know, when I first got it. I was just in awe of the colors and the textures and the imagery. It's beautiful. It really is. It's a little difficult to shuffle, but not terrible. It's not like US Games bad or anything. I will say I've never had this problem with linen finish before, but with using
this particular, let me see if I can just move this light closer, that might help. I don't know. No, that actually made it worse, didn't it? Anyway, I don't know. What was I saying? Oh, linen finish. I don't know if you'll be able to tell on video, likely not. But the linen finish in this particular tarot deck, for some reason, makes the art look pixely to me. And I've never had that issue before with linen finish. So I don't know if maybe the art just actually is a little bit pixely. Yeah, like you can kind of see it with the edges of the wings. Probably not actually through the video. But on the edges of the wings, there's like, I mean, it is the style of art. It's not like anything is wrong with it. But it just, to my eye, it translates as pixely, which I don't enjoy. Anyway, point is, I've had this deck in my possession for 3 months, and at this point in time, I have such a small collection that it's not hard to use all of my decks at this point. Like, I can spend weeks with a deck or even a month and move to a different one, and there's just not that many, you know? I don't have a lot of choices at this point. So I'm being a lot more careful about what I let go of. And all of that is just to say, it's not working. It's not working for me. And at this point, like, I did sort of have the thought, and I may have said it in my first impressions. I don't know. I haven't watched it since I recorded it. I may have even said this in the video. If this one doesn't work for me, I'm done with Marseille. I mean, that's a little too much of a statement. Like, if one really grabbed me in the future, I would definitely try it. I definitely think, to use Sylvain's original phrase, these are pips with feeling. They are. And I enjoy all of these like ribbons and the color story in the cards. Like, just, it's this disconnect for me though, which I've mentioned in other videos before, of like when you're flipping through a deck, really your relationship to it at that moment is to the art, right? But when you're actually using it, it's different. This is one of those that, you know, and you can't know that until you're using it, unless a tarot reader is actually showing you in a video what it's like to read with the deck, which unfortunately I will not be doing for you today because I already put it in order and I'm mailing it today. So, but I mean, there's not much to show for me personally because it doesn't really read for me. All of these, I'm having the same issue that I've had with every Marseille. I don't like the majors and I don't like the court cards. Even though in this context they all have little skull faces, they're too regal for me. And that's all Marseille, you know, because tarot was originally created for, like, you know, rich society people, right? So the oldest iteration of it, being Marseille, is just not for me. But I love the pips. I really do. And I did think briefly about taking out the court cards and the majors and using this deck as just the pips. I did think about doing that, but I just never got around to it. And a friend of mine mentioned that they wanted to buy this deck, and I was like, girl, don't even worry about it. I'll send it to you. It's in my giveaway box. But I mean, look at this. Some of the imagery, to me, it reads like vintage greeting cards. You know, it's so pretty. It really is. But, you know, honestly, I get nothing from it when I try to read with it. So it's going. And it really is, you know, for me, I think it's the court cards and the majors. I just can't get on board with any art that to me emotionally I read as sophisticated. And these people look like royalty to me. And I get it. I mean, this is the King of Cups. It's supposed to look like royalty, right? But, and it's not like I don't have decks. It's not like the Rider-Waite-Smith doesn't have royalty aspects to it, you know? The Hierophant still looks like a fucking pope. But I've been able to get past it with that deck. But, yeah, this is one of the most beautiful cards, though. And I do, like, Two of Swords is one of the ones that, like, I need it to be right. And it is right in this tarot deck. Look at that gorgeous Two of Swords. But, yeah, I even love this Three of Swords as well. But, you know, I don't know. Am I picky? I guess I'm picky. I guess that's what it is. I really just need tarot decks to I need to feel enthusiastically in for tarot decks, you know? And I'm not feeling that with this one. Even though as I'm saying that, the swords, the pip swords are my favorite in this tarot deck. So I'm saying this with a background of cards that I genuinely love to look at. I mean, look at this black cloth flowing through these 7 swords. I mean, it's like, what was that deck? It was that tattoo deck. What was that one called? Because there's several different tattoo decks. I can't remember, but you know, it's like a mass market, easy to find. It had the most beautiful pips, particularly the swords. But again, I didn't really like, in that one too, it was like, you know, a pip style, like not really Marseille, but yeah, I'm having similar feelings towards this deck that I did with that tattoo deck, which was, damn, I love these pips. But, and it's interesting because it's kind of like I'm coming full circle. Back in 2019, when I first started collecting tarot decks, one of the very first ones, in fact, the first one, I think, if my memory serves, the first one that I bought for myself on purpose in this particular era of me collecting tarot was Wild Unknown. And I even said at the time, one of the reasons why I gravitated to that was because I didn't really like seeing people in my tarot cards. And that has remained true. Like, I can handle seeing people in my tarot cards, but overall, I resonate with the ones that have a distance from people. Like, one of the reasons why I love Marigold is because they're all skeletons. Oh man, the coins are gorgeous too. I mean, look at these colors. These color choices are they remind me of like 60s interior design kind of vibes. I mean, gorgeous. It's gorgeous. But I'm not going to miss it because I haven't been using it. But anyway, one of the reasons I love Marigold is because they're all skeletons. One of the reasons I love Wild Unknown is because it's all animals. Like, I'm really mostly not into people in my tarot cards. Still, to this day, I'm coming back around again. I mean, I think it was interesting for me to, from the standpoint of art and art critique, I think it was interesting for me, and obviously I'm veering off talking about this particular deck and just, you know, talking about shit in general. I think it was interesting for me to have this sort of 5-year-long experiment of buying all these different tarot decks. As far as like my relationship to art, I think it has been interesting for my relationship to art because it has taken it to another level and it's helped me define my thoughts about it as well. Like I know what I like now. And I have almost always, with very little exceptions, shied away from any realistic depictions of people. Like if a person doesn't present as very wrong, almost, I'm not necessarily interested, you know? I'm trying to think of examples now to give you. Like Tarot of Vampires has people, but they're vampires. So that's one of the ones I kept. Obviously Rider-Waite-Smith has people, and they're not actually, you know, they're not people that I would normally enjoy. I'm gonna put the guidebook in the middle because it's hard to stuff it in this box because I live in a humid environment, and if a box is a little tight, it's gonna be difficult. I might actually need to put the guidebook in last. Yeah, let's do that. Okay, yeah, that's how that's gonna work. Overall, I think this is a very well done Marseille deck. It's just not for me. It's just not. So there you go. That's that. Now I just want to babble. I just want to talk to you guys. Let's talk. I have just hit 4K on my channel. As of this morning. I mean, it didn't happen this morning, but it happened like a couple days ago, I think. But as of this morning, I had 4,002. The way that that shit fluctuates, though, like I wouldn't be surprised if I kind of dip under a couple more times and go above and dip under. Like it's sort of the trajectory of subscribers on my channel anyway is kind of like this, like it just like it does go up generally, but every time I post a video I lose a bunch of subscribers and gain others, and typically I gain a little bit more than I lose, so I think that's a good thing. But anyway, I just wanted to celebrate that for a second. I felt like I was on the verge of 4K for a really long time, and it finally happened. So anyway, let me continue my discussion about people in tarot decks. Yeah, like I don't necessarily love the people in the Rider-Waite-Smith, although I do really like the Empress. But I've come to love them. I stuck with them long enough to fall in love with them, I think. But again, like any style of dress that for me looks, and this might not even be the right term because I'm not well versed in this, but any style of dress in a tarot deck that to me looks royal, I feel distance from it. And it's not for me. I'm trying to think about what other tarot decks I have that have people in it that I have accepted. Dark Wood Tarot is in the giveaway box right now, which is weird because I love Abigail Larson's work, but I think it's her artwork is just a little too detailed for tiny tarot cards. You know, I do enjoy more simple imagery in a tarot deck. Yeah, I have other things to say today, but I think it needs to be a separate video because I think it needs to be about the topic, whereas this one is about this particular tarot deck primarily. So I think I will stop here, but yeah, So my final summation of Mr. Friborg's Tarocchi, it is, for me personally, a higher price deck that I wouldn't normally be able to pay for. However, I used funds from ad revenue from YouTube to buy it. So, and that's totally fine with me. Like, at this point in time, I haven't bought a single tarot or oracle deck in 2024 so far. And there's none that there's one that I'm sort of thinking about, but I think ultimately it's going to be a no on that one too. Because it has a lot of human faces in it. Very expressive human faces. And I don't do well with very expressive human faces. So it's one that I kind of want to try, but I don't know. Maybe not. I don't know. Anyway. But the point is, I only, at this point in time, at the rate that I'm currently going at, it would make sense for me to only buy tarot decks and oracle decks when I get YouTube payouts, which happened 3 times last year. Like, once you hit $100 threshold, you get a payout. It happened 3 times last year, and which was rare, and it's because of the video. It got so much engagement that I actually made more money on YouTube last year than I ever had. And it likely won't happen that way again. But unless what does Michael call it? Like, he will often try to counsel me on things that I want to say. Like, we'll go on walks at night and I'll talk about, like, I want to make a video about this concept. And he'll be like, well, I don't want you to accidentally step into the drama again. And last night I was like, you know what? I cannot fucking control that. I can't. And he's like, yeah, that's true. Not in the sense of, like, I can't control myself, but, all I can do is show you guys a portrait of where I'm at right now in life. And if that gets people mad at me, then it's ultimately mostly not my fucking fault. And of course, it depends, right? If it is my fucking fault, I will own up to it, obviously. But anyway, so yeah, I'm all over the place. I need to, there's going to be another video very quickly. It might even come out the day after this one. Because, I don't really wait. I don't really batch record. I don't really wait. Except I did record my first impressions of this tarot deck, and I made it. I waited, guys. Anyway, happy 4K to me. That's incredible. I've had this YouTube channel it'll be 10 years in July. So it took me almost a decade to get to 4K. And it's been an interesting journey, an interesting ride. I think for the most part, with the exception of, like, little moments here and there, like, I did get a huge influx of subscribers around the controversial video that I made last year. But I got a lot of people unsubscribing at that point too. Like, people felt one way or the other pretty extreme in their reaction to that. But with the exception of, like, a couple of weird moments that got me subscribers in a strange way, like when I posted the Maury Povich video and I got a bunch of subscribers when it wasn't my content that I was posting, and it got taken down anyway because it wasn't my content, it was NBC's content, with the exception of a couple of little moments like that. I think most of my subscribers have subscribed because they genuinely like something I'm putting out there. So thank you. If you're one of my subscribers, thank you. I do appreciate it. I do appreciate that I can formulate my thoughts on something and share it with you guys, and I get a reflection back. People smell what I'm stepping in. So thank you. Thank you for that. it's validating. And that is something that I've definitely, through the process of having an internet radio show, I mean, it started with blogs, you know, like if I go all the way back, like I have been seeking validation online for a very long time. Started with a live journal blog, and now it's a YouTube channel, and there were many iterations of me seeking this validation in between, you know. And I still have my radio show, my weekly radio show. It is still, it's my favorite thing. It's my favorite thing. But this is really fun too. When I let it be fun, when I don't think too hard about how people are going to react to me and I just let myself be who I am, it's validating and it's rewarding. And most of the time I've been able to do that. So I really appreciate you if you enjoy being around me. So thank you for being here. Anyway, gonna shut up now.